My name is Kathy Heine, and I'm here to introduce to you Pastor Robert Jarvis from the University Lutheran Chapel. The University Lutheran Chapel is the oldest mission of the Rocky Mountain District, and it reaches out to both students and the larger community at CU Boulder with God's Word and the sacraments, and plus also training the young people there to be future leaders in the church and in their communities. Pastor Jarvis has been in ministry for 33 years, 22 of which has been in campus ministry. He was from St. Louis, Missouri, and returned there for his seminary training after going to Concordia St. Paul and Concordia Seward. He has served parishes and campus ministries in Minnesota and Wisconsin for the majority of his life, but now he's transplanted here to Colorado, the West. And his last Minnesota church did not involve any campus ministry at all. So he was installed in November of 22 at CU, so he's experiencing his first full year of college at CU this year, and he's enjoying it very much. And he feels like he's back where he belongs. So he has a wife, Joanne, 4 children, and 2 grandchildren. He has a son in western Minnesota, a daughter in Los Angeles, and 2 daughters in Colorado. And those 2 daughters in Colorado have given him 2 grandchildren. So he's amazed at God's efficiency once again to give him a ministry and also allow him to be very involved with his grandchildren's lives. So Pastor Jarvis wants to get into as many of our congregations as it's possible for him to get into. He wants to speak to adult groups, and he wants to speak to high school youth and their parents to try to let them understand the critical ministry of the campus church, especially at CU Boulder. So with all of that, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Pastor Robert Jarvis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think the mic is on. Thank you very much, Kathy. I had to make a few comments about the previous speakers because where my study is, there's a window. And when you see where we're located, there's constant people walking by. And when I was a grade school kid, I remember my teacher saying, Bobby has to learn self-control. My mom was very creative. I had to sit on my hands sometimes because I was fidgeting or doing whatever. And I'm sure that had they had that diagnosis when I was a kid, I probably would have had that diagnosis, and maybe still might, because I am fixated on bikes. And being in Boulder, okay, my window is here, my desk is here, just keep focused this way. But here's another thing that I wanted to bring up that I thought was kind of funny. I thought it was interesting because Dr. Rast, they've been trying to get him here for 2 years. And then I heard Robert, been trying to get him here for 2 years. Bob calls me. He goes, would you be willing to speak? And I said, sure, this would be awesome. I'd love to do that. And he goes, well, okay, you need to get this material in to me. It's like, okay, when? Tomorrow. So I'm not too hard to get, apparently. But I want to say something about the title that we have by way of talking a little bit about my wife. Yes, we were, I grew up way out west, in St. Louis. Yeah, after talking about how that was the western edge. But anyway, I kind of thought it was Midwest. But my wife is from Minnesota, and we actually did move out west. And we bought a house in Netherlands, so even a little bit further west yet. And it was a fixer-upper, big time. We couldn't live in it for like the first 2 months. And my wife, she had left a job back in Minnesota where she was doing what she wanted to do in the town where she wanted to do it. She's a music educator. She is certified for choir, band, and orchestra. She plays organ and is good. She is incredible what she can do. In fact, I was going to say she has started up a little side business, and I was going to give the description here because actually I think it might be of interest to you. It is called Executive Choices Colorado, and it is an accounting business that does bookkeeping for churches and foundation management. So if your congregation is looking for any kind of accounting, bookkeeping, or whatever, please talk to me about what she can do. But anyway, multi-talented. She comes to Netherlands. She gets a job at the grocery store. And it's kind of like, she enjoys it. It's a good chance to get to know the people and stuff. But she also becomes the general contractor for our house. Because I can't do it. I don't have the time. I'm trying to, figure out how to do all this stuff with campus ministry. And so she's the general contractor. And actually, the house, the top level has a beautiful view of Barker Reservoir, Eldora, and Netherland. We are right on the ridge, looking down. And so we're going to turn that into a B&B. So it is enough to be a business. So she goes to Home Depot, and she says, I want to have a contractor's discount. They go, what's the name of your company? She hadn't thought about it. And she goes, JJ Stays, because she's Joanne Jarvis. JJ Stays. And they go, wow, that was pretty good. You just come up with it? Yeah. Like, wow, that was pretty neat. So Bob's going, what do you want it to be called? I don't know. I don't know what my presentation, what's the topic? And he said, A Mighty Fortress. And I said, how about the Fortress at 1202 Folsom? And when I came up with that title, it was just kind of sort of impulse. It's kind of shaped the whole way that I am approaching my call to the students there as a fortress. So I'm going to, didn't tell me how to go backward. Good, okay. Figured that out fast enough. Anyway, so to talk about a fortress, and by the way, I'm going to have a lot more slides than anybody else did, which is I'm going to probably fall behind or whatever. Already did that. But anyway, the whole idea of a fortress. When Solomon built his castle, this temple here, I call it a fortress, you can see the walls. I'm going to use you can see the walls that David had built. That was the fortress. But looking at that, the temple had prior to that been just a tent. And it would be here, and it would be here, and it would be here. And while they were wandering out in the wilderness, it was wherever they picked up, when they moved, they settled it down, and they picked it up, and they went somewhere else. But now it had a good, solid place to be. And when I've talked to other campus groups, I go, where do you guys meet? Well, we meet over here or over here. Sometimes we're meeting over here, wherever we can get a meeting room. I thought, oh, wow, we're right here. We've got this place, and it is so incredibly close and convenient, as you will see shortly, if you don't already know. But the thing about the fortress is, as we look at let's see, I think I missed. Okay. Well, I guess I'm going to go back. That's our fortress. So that is, you can see that it is shaped in curves like this, like a fish. And here we've got fish. And over here, I don't think you can quite see it, and it would be in here, is my goldfish. That was not actually part of the call, but anyway, I've got goldfish in an aquarium over there. But we kind of maintained that fish theme, but also the fortress that we've got. But the whole idea with the fortress, especially in the prayer that Solomon had prayed, is the idea that my name shall be there. And that is what we have in our fortress. We have the name of God that gives life. And that is what was going on there in the temple, where God put his name and the people came and they brought their sacrifices, and then he gave the sacrifices back to them, that they would get his holiness and his life. That is what is happening in ours as well, when we have the word and the sacraments there. But you also have what Solomon was praying, where he talks about the foreigners who come from a far country, those who are not part of the temple, but hear about it. They hear about the wonderful mercies of God and his wonderful way of life, and the people would be drawn to it. And so it was like a magnet, and that is what we have in our fortress there at 1202 Folsom. But I'm going to be talking about that fortress idea a little bit more as we get into what was given to me as a ministry description. It was November. I haven't been there very long. I talked to people that park in our parking lot for the game days. And go, oh yeah, we've been coming here for like 20 years or so. And say, well, I'm like 0.8. So I'm still a little fresh. But this was what was given to me. But before we get to that, I want to emphasize how important it is that we have a ministry there on that site. You've got Luther's statement here, and he's talking about any school where the scriptures do not reign paramount. That's not at any university, state school. Instead, you've got this faculty that is committed to pounding out what they might have learned, being told that your parents were wrong and that what you heard in your church was wrong, and this is what you need to know. This is actually a professor, a retired professor that we have that's a member of our congregation, who talks about the commitment of the faculty to do that. So then you've got what Luther's saying there, that the schools will be the very gates of hell. Wow, all the more reason that we have to have outreach to the students. So those were the four statements. Incredibly easy to remember. I could even remember those. That we would retain, regain, gain, and train. And so we're going to look at the first one as we see, the retain. That is such an important part. That is, we have all these students from our congregations. And when I was asked to speak here, I could not believe how excited I was to do this. You guys are the movers and shakers in your congregation. And you are here. You've been part of this, I believe, SOAR for quite a while. I've talked to some that have been probably since it first got started. And I know that you are leaders in your congregation. And even though you may not have children that are in school, in college, you might have grandchildren. You know of those who are, of those in your congregation. And as Kathy had said, and I'm going to say again and again, I want to get into as many congregations as I can, especially, within driving distance of Nederland. And maybe I could say starting from Boulder. I've actually already been down to Colorado Springs. That was a drive. But I did get a chance to speak there, and if I can get to Colorado Springs, I could probably get to just about any of your congregations to speak about the importance of campus ministry, because it's so important to retain the ones that we have that are in our congregations, because when they get out to the university, they forget. And when you've got a faculty that is committed to pounding out the faith out of them, it is even more important. I didn't realize quite how important it was until when I was in western Minnesota. I was in Morris. I don't know if you know where Morris is. Oh, good. There's some people that do. And it was a town gown situation. I was serving in the congregation and doing some campus ministry there. But I had a man come in with his daughter, and he wanted to meet me and see the congregation. And that's not all that unusual. But his daughter had not yet decided where she was going to school. She was coming, and it was one of the factors in the decision of where she was going to go to school. It's like, wow, that is something. And I was honored. I continue to be honored. I mean, to be speaking here, I am so honored to be here. But this is so important. That is, when you've got a student, wherever they are going to school, make sure that the pastor in that area knows about them. If it's got a campus ministry like me, make sure that pastor knows about that student. If it is one that it's not a campus ministry, but it's a congregation that is nearby, make sure they know. And if you are in a congregation that is near a school, see what you can do to reach out to them. And when they come in, roll out the red carpet. Now, don't overwhelm them. I have a way of doing that. But just make them feel so welcome. The retaining is so important, and it's something that we are working on from ULC. But I wanted to say something else, because ULC, you may know, has a reputation of their worship as being, it's liturgical. It follows the hymnal, and it follows the historic liturgy. You saw the brick. The acoustics are fantastic. You want to sing. I want to chant. Not all the kids are used to chanting. So we've worked out something with Mount Hope in Boulder. But this is kind of funny because it just happened yesterday. Okay, I've been talking about this for a while. So Mount Hope is a little less traditional, and it also is at Sunday morning. ULC meets at 5 o'clock in the evening. So it's kind of like a little less traditional than that, but there at Mount Hope, they have this wonderful congregation, just incredibly supportive people. And I said, let's kind of use this as an extension of ULC. So they would go there for worship, but be a part of our community, our Bible studies and our social events and things like that. Well, I talked to the pastor there. That was Pastor Allman, who used to be at Peace Arvada. Some of you, I'm sure, know. And he's, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I talked to my council. Yeah, that sounds like we could do this. I talked to my circuit. Yeah, we're behind you. I talked to President Maxwell, he even knows about it. But who I hadn't talked to yet was the student that was doing it. So I finally, yesterday, got a chance to talk to this student. It was kind of funny because of what Robert was talking about, how when I kind of reflected back, I thought, man, I did a lot of talking. I said, hey, if you need a pastor, I can actually listen. So, but I did want to make sure that he knew. But it was a great contact with him. And he said, yeah, I've got a friend that's thinking about it. I said, you know what? Let's do what we just did here, except you bring your friend. And so the three of us can talk as we kind of extend it, and see the way of reaching out from ULC. But as we talk about retaining the students, I've got a picture here. This is Abraham and Lot. And if you recall what happens there, the men were fighting with each other. They didn't have enough space or whatever. And Abraham says, choose where you want to go. And Lot goes, I want to go down there. It's like, don't you realize what that is? That's Sodom. I mean, you remember what Sodom is like. And it's like, come on, you had to know. And yet, that's kind of the point, is that this is where our kids are. They're in Sodom. And as we get from Peter, who is inspired by the Holy Spirit, to know what's going on in the background, he talks about righteous Lot, greatly distressed by the sensual conduct of the wicked. And look at that. That's what our students are facing in their righteous souls, what they see. And we have to give them a fortress. We have to give them refuge, haven, and that is what we are doing there. So this is the retain portion. There is also the regain. Those who have drifted away, they may have gone through confirmation. They may have started school. That first couple weeks, it's a really tough thing in that first couple weeks because they've got all these things that are going on. They're overwhelmed by the fact that they are not at home anymore. They've got to develop their own schedule. They've got to resist the temptation to party every night. They've got all these other events that are going on. And after 3 or 4 weeks, if they're not there, I don't really miss going to church. And all of a sudden, we're losing them. So some of them, we do for a while. And then they come back. Or maybe some other drifting Christian. And I don't know what exactly may cause them to come back. But got a case of the prodigal son. Because after they've been away for a while, and when they do come back, they go, this is what I've missed. And so like the prodigal son, who when he saw this, came to himself, and he says, what have I done? What have I sacrificed? And so that's when we do the regaining. And that has happened. In fact, I've got letters from students that talk about ULC, and they talk about having been lost, slipped away, and then recovered again. Then you've got the gaining aspect. This is where the temple was, where it was drawing in the people. They were coming in, and they were amazed by it and the teachings that were going on there. And this is where we see those who have, I said Christians that have drifted, that's kind of, that's generally if it's been like they were baptized and hadn't been in a church for a long time. But you've got unbaptized nationals and international students. And you'll see a picture here of this young man. I was going to see if he would come with me today from Iran. When we have a newsletter, I write it up every week. I did not put his name in there when he was baptized. I was so excited about his baptism. I was saying, we're going to have a baptism. We're going to have a baptism. This was in my newsletter for several weeks. But when he did get baptized, I didn't put his name in there. And it was by his request. Not as you might think, because if he were to try to go back to Iran, they would know he was baptized. No, but so that he could talk to his family about Jesus and not turn them off because they would hear, he's already baptized. I was like, wow, that is really cool. His name is Amir. There's another, I'm not quite sure where he's from because that's not me. That was the pastor before me. But there's another international student being baptized there. And I've got another, let's see, he's from, I've just started catechesis with him. I forgot what country he's from because I've only had one meeting with him. Another one with a young Indian woman that is going through catechesis. So it's pretty exciting to be able to be there. In fact, it's amazing. I'm going to say this now because if I don't say it again, I don't want to miss my chance. The opportunities that have been pouring out is like when God would rain manna down in the wilderness. And what did they do? They didn't do anything other than just scoop it up. And that is what it's been like for me. It's incredible. And as I go through there and show you the things that have been happening, it is like just let the manna rain down and I'll just go out there and scoop it up. It's been incredible. This is something we try to do with everyone that comes in. We want to train them to be adult worshipers. That is, that they understand what is the importance of being able to go and receive the Lord's word and his sacraments, where we are given life and forgiveness. Just as they were getting in the temple, they get that there. And that they would be congregational leaders. In ULC, the idea, it's not always the case, but the idea and ideal is that the students would be the leaders of the council. And so one of the letters that I had that was written a couple years ago was actually by a pastor of 2 students that were graduates from ULC. And he was writing to our board of directors, and he said, I'm the last person you would expect to get a letter like this. He says, I don't know where ULC is. I've never been to Colorado. As far as I know, by the way, he's out East Coast. As far as I know, the only Colorado people that I know are this young couple. But let me tell you, they are what you want to have in your congregation. They had been leaders in the council there at ULC. They got the experience. And here they come in at this, for us, we would consider it a pretty young age at 26 or 27. When we're talking with Dr. Rast, well, you're way too old to ever become a pastor. But here they were, and he says they are phenomenal. And they were coming out of University Lutheran Chapel. So we train adult congregational leaders. And as we do the training, and I'm going to make some points with Dr. Rast with this, we go for the meat. I just got a thumbs up on that one. Our confessions are in every one of our constitutions. This is how we will determine all of our doctrine and practice based on the confessions. And the way that you hold to it is why we had that spaghetti bowl that he was showing us earlier, where you see Lutherans here, and all these different church bodies. Yes, regional, yes, language, but a lot of it also has to do with their willingness to hold to this. We had copies of that, 12 copies in our student center. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to use this. I want to refer to it. And so I do, so that they are familiar with the confessions, because it's very important that they do. This is a different hat that I'm putting on right now, but I'm not going to go any further. This is what we're using right now. We just went through the 7th commandment, the large catechism, and this is a recent publication. It's got huge notes after each of the commandments, and then it's got essays, and we were talking about some of the essays, and there were some really good stuff, really good conversation, and this is how they get trained. We also train them to be bold citizens. Hey, you are not, you can vote, and we encourage voting, but also to speak. And even, not that I've seen that this has happened with any that are at ULC, but we are hearing about more and more saying, hey, you know what? I could be on a school board. Maybe I could run for a council position in my city or whatever. You know, maybe it might even be a state representative, whatever. But the idea of actually being involved and taking leadership roles in the state, and then, of course, in the home, to be confident parents, to be productive in the workforce. I want to say something about the confident parents thing, because this is something that is just kind of just came up in the last couple of months. There's a new organization. Let me ask it this way. How many of you were in Walther League? Okay, I know that number is going down because those who, you know, were involved with Walther League, they're getting older. Did you meet your spouse in Walther League? Yes. There's a new organization called In Concord, which is kind of like the same sort of thing. It's looking at it and saying, we've got all these young people, and they need to meet spouses. And you want to have them in concord, which is that they share the same confession. It's hard to be married, obviously, as you know. And when you share a different confession, you go to a different church, quite often what happens is, well, you might find something in between, or quite often what happens is they both drop out. But if you are in concord, then the chances of the marriage being strong, that the children brought up in the faith, is very important. And so I am very much in favor of this organization. And I'll tell you why. We've got about 13 students at ULC. Okay, there's maybe kind of 14. She's not really LCMS. 13 are men. I'm beating the bushes. Okay, can we find some girls, you know, for my men? You know, I kind of feel like it's like, well, there's an activity that you'll see in a little bit called the herring barrel, and that ties into a little history of Luther, which was basically a matter of kind of sort of like he sees Susanna, I think it was, out in the field. He goes, she'll do. We'll get married tomorrow. It's not quite like that, but that's kind of what happened with the herring barrel. And the whole idea of trying to find young women for young men, you know, and that's what the In Concord is doing. And so confident parents, bringing them together, seeing lots of weddings that have grown out of at ULC. Here's specifically about ULC, and I want you to see, recognize that? That's where Deion Sanders plays football or leads his team. What does that mean? At this moment. Well, actually, I think it's a away game. I would be there if it was, I don't know if I could be, yeah. Anyway, do you see that? Yes, in Oregon. You see that star? That's us. That's how close we are. This is an incredibly busy corner. And it's just incredible to be there. This right here is where they do all this tailgating. So you've got tailgating and the field. It's almost like no distance whatsoever between the chapel and the field. And last year, when they were 11-1, there was still all this tailgating. Can you imagine what it's like now? It's absolutely phenomenal. So, here we are a congregation, but the district owns our building. And as you can see, immediately adjacent to the campus, you can see the council is filled by students. We are a mission congregation because we are focused on campus ministry. Here, 1958, that's when ULC got started. It had a different name. I think it was called the University Lutheran Association at the time. But that was 65 years ago when a church that was up a little bit further west, across actually on the hill, so on the west side of campus, said, we need to start some kind of outreach to the campus because there was a lot of GI Bill students coming in. And so they started that. That is the oldest, as Kathy had said, the oldest mission for the Rocky Mountain District. 65 years. Then the building you saw was dedicated 5 years later. I have to tell you this. I've already said it to some here already. In April 21, a bulletin said, this builder has won the bid. They're going to build the chapel. November 10th, the same year, they're dedicating it. It's like, I think if that were to go now, they'd still be in the process of trying to get permits. We are supported by the district, congregations in our mission society, our own congregation, and other donors of time and funds with a heart towards campus ministry. There are, I'm not quite sure if it's 13 congregations or what it is in the mission society. We're trying to expand that number. Some of you, I'm sure, are in that mission society. We get support from other congregations, and you'll see how it is that they do provide that support. This was a work day. It's kind of funny. I bet in every one of my pictures, I've got a picture of Amir. It's not that he wants to be in the pictures. It's just that he happens to be in all the events. It's pretty cool. There's my installation. I had to kind of update some of these pictures from what I had been given. There's Amir's baptism again, although you've already seen that picture. This was actually a national, so he was a young man that lived in the area, and he's come to ULC. And then we've got the sacrament here, as we've got people that are lined up. They are looking for the Lord's body and blood. It's kind of funny because the picture's a little hazy. It looks almost like it's kind of old, but it's really only about a month old. But anyway, just a couple pictures there as it is to faithfully deliver God's word in truth and purity to the student, staff, and the Boulder community, the CU Boulder community. So how do we do that? Well, we do it with InReach. We have a Bible study, and that's what you've got there. Students that are not all CU, by the way, and I'll talk about that in a little bit as we are talking about this description there, if you want to see what that is. We have the student meal. 5 o'clock we have service. After that, we have our meal. And I thought about what Dr. Rast had said when they've got this sign that says, free meal. That's like, what, catnip to a cat or something, you know? I mean, to a college student, home-cooked meals. What a brilliant idea. That's one of the reasons why we have it in the evening, so that they can have dinner. So we have congregations bring it. It's a win-win because the congregation, the members of the congregation meet the students see members from the congregation. Sometimes it's a congregation, sometimes it's a ladies group in there, sometimes it's just a couple families that want to do it, but they have a heart for what we're doing there. And so they come and they bring meals and they serve it to us and we enjoy it. Then we've got our Bible study on Tuesday, and you'll see in the next slide just a couple pictures there. We'll start off with a brief prayer devotion thing for about half an hour. Then we raid the refrigerator. We look to see what was brought on Sunday. What do we still have left? What hasn't Pastor eaten yet? And then we get that, and then we have our study as we had talked about before. And so these are some of the students just posing actually to get the picture. But the campus group incubator is something that we're just starting to do. And it kind of sounded similar to what, again, Dr. Rast was talking about. Because when he would say these people would come in and they would go, well, we don't have anybody there, but we'll try to follow up. Or when you go to that town, look for this one. Well, there's a young man that came up for one of our events from the School of Mines. Then I found out about another student that's going to School of Mines. Bring them together. Found out about another student that's going to School of Mines. Bring them together. Then I heard about another one. We've got 4 students from the School of Mines and said, come up to ULC, join us for our Bible study, and then when you guys are strong enough on your own, start your own. Got a really motivated contact at Regis. And this is a CSU student there. She comes down for our study. I don't know how much time. I don't have the time to talk about what she said, but because I'm done at 2:30, right? I know I'm not. Well, anyway. Oh, good. Okay, so this is what she said. There's kind of a connection between UW and CSU and CU, and she was saying that they were kind of being recruited by some of the students at UW that's in Laramie. And I said, oh, are you thinking about going to a different school? How about if you were to come to CU? She goes, are you kidding? It's like, oh, she would never think of it. Well, obviously we just had the CU-CSU game, there's something there. And she goes, I want you to know how much I appreciate the Bible study that you have, because I practically have to hold my nose when I come into Boulder as a student at Fort Collins. So there's a little rivalry there. But anyway, she is a wonderful young lady. But here's what we're trying to do: provide a community of fellow Christians to students so they have a support network when dealing with the challenges of the studies and the social life, actually, there. And give them a good social life through the life on the camp, on the chapel, at the chapel. There's where we had prayer service and a different picture of the Bible study. We continue to do this in reach with fun events like hiking. And here's the latest picture here. There's Sarah, the CSU student, and some others that we have here, but some of our larger activities. The herring barrel, which I spoke about briefly. It says biennial, but actually we do it every year. And this year it's going to be at Fort Collins. We do a spring retreat, that's annual, and that's where we bring these students, but hopefully more than that. This is not being held anymore, unfortunately, but hope that we'll be getting those going again. There's another picture of the herring barrel. This is when ULC hosted. They brought in a couple well-known speakers, and you can see it was very, very well attended. Then we did we do outreach. And you can see, as we do this, we're trying to, obviously, reach out to the campus. So here's the Be Involved Fair. Know who this guy is? That is Brian. Because Brian talked to Bob, Bob called me. And Brian was just, he was there at our tent for the Be Involved Fair, which was the beginning of the year when all the students, are walking around all over Farrand Field. You may have heard about Farrand Field because that's where they're having the pregame party that was 13 hours before the game. Like, why would you have a pregame party that early? I think probably has something to do with TV markets or whatever. So at 7 o'clock in the morning, they're having a pregame party, and Farrand Field is packed with people. Well, it was packed then as well. And we were giving out popsicles. My wife bought 10 bags of these Freezy Pop things. 36. I go, what are you thinking? How are we ever going to give away all of these? Well, we were incredibly popular because it was like 92, 94 degrees that day. And we didn't know quite how to do it, but we kind of settled into a pattern. And so what we would do, and so we've got a couple students here, as you can see, we would kind of clip open the Freezy Pop sort of slowly as they stood there, and we said, this is courtesy of the University Lutheran Chapel, which is located over there at Colorado and Folsom. It's only like 5 blocks from here. I'm sure you know where it is. You probably didn't see it. But when you walk by it next time, you're going to go, hey, that's University Lutheran Chapel. They're the ones that gave us Freezy Pops. And we gave away like 300 of those. We bought so much goodwill for about $30. It was incredible. And it was just fantastic. I loved being there. And so this is what we have left over in our freezer door. That's kind of a boring picture, but it's like, I'm going to take a picture of these Freezy Pops. I wish I would have had pictures of when they were stopping by, but it's like, hey, can I get one? Hey, can I get one? Eventually it got a little bit cooler. It wasn't quite so hot. We're going, would you like to have one? Oh, no, I'm okay now. But anyway, it was a great way to get some exposure for University Lutheran Chapel. Then some more outreach. This is something we haven't done here. The Baroque concert was something that was around Christmas the year before I came. And something we don't have on there that I did kind of just skip over was a Creators Film Festival. This is where we would say we want to show movies that had been in the theaters but that address cultural issues. Cultural issues is a first article concern because the Creator has not only origin of the earth, but has ideas for how our society should be run. And if we show movies, and I've got several different movies in mind. I think what we're going to show next, and I don't think we should have any trouble showing it, is The Sound of Freedom. So that we would bring in this, we would have this movie, we would show it on our big screen, we would advertise for it and see who comes in. We showed, the first movie was one that I thought we should show. Didn't quite get the response because the students didn't know about this movie. It was done in 2008. It was called Expelled. It's the beginning of the cancel culture, but again, the students didn't know about it, so we didn't get a great response. Amir was there, but by doing it this way, we send out posters to these schools where they're trying to get a campus group going, put up the poster, but put the LCMS logo cross on there so that when somebody goes, hey, I didn't know there was an event going, but there's an LCMS cross. I'm LCMS, and they find each other. So to do that at Mines, to do that at Regis, and wherever we can, get that done. Northern Colorado in Greeley. And so this is another event that had happened there. More outreach. It didn't quite work out as outreach. Our Welcome Back Barbecue, these are all students, but the idea is that they would invite friends. And that's kind of what I was talking about when I was sitting down with that student yesterday, and I said, hey, you've got a friend that is interested? Let's sit down and we'll do this together. Just that friends bringing friends in. That's the way it happens. And so, Amir was there, he just isn't in the picture. And then paintball outing. These are low barrier events. So playing paintball, going to a Rockies game, going to the Dark Horse and talking theology, having a game night there, Welcome Back Barbecue. So now we get to the point where I can talk about how you can support this fortress. And you can see everybody should have this. Now, we are in the middle of a feasibility study right now as we are launching a fundraising campaign. We're looking to raise about $300,000 to get the campus, the chapel, in a more financially stable position, to improve our facilities, and to extend our outreach. As we're doing this feasibility study, we find that there's a lot of love and support for ULC, but it may not be real deep. And what we need to do is continue to reach out. And so this questionnaire that you have is one of the ways that we are trying to locate some of those who are either graduates from ULC or who have a heart for campus ministry. And as you fill this out, I'd like to, you could give this to me, but this isn't just for this today. We're working with the district office. The district office just sent out a letter with this attached to all of the circuit visitors of the 7 circuit area, which is here, the Denver area. They are to send it on to their pastors and congregations in their circuit. Those went out last week. You may, I don't expect it, but you may have seen this already. If you didn't, maybe you will tomorrow. If you don't, actually don't fill it out now. Show it to your pastor and say, hey, I understand this is supposed to be going out to our congregation. Can you make sure that it gets out to our congregation? Whether it is an insert in your bulletin or if it is an electronic version that is given on an electronic newsletter, or if it is in your Bible class or whatever, we would like to get this into as many hands as possible in your congregations. And so to fill that out, and you can see the questions that are on there. Then we have this sheet, which is a completely new thing, as we want to support our students. The idea behind it basically is to ask parents, hey, parents, would you be willing to give $100 a month for the sake of your child? Which is going to go towards the work that we're doing there. We are dependent on the district. We do have there's a subsidy, but we would like to be independent from the district. At this point now, you can say, this is your mission, because as you are putting your money in the basket, if you do that anymore, it's a lot of that goes going online, but part of that goes to the district, which eventually goes to the Senate, but what goes to the district will come to ULC. And we are pleased to have that, but it would be even better if it is by willing support. We want to give to ULC because we appreciate the campus ministry that is going on there, and that can be going on in other places. So $100 per month, as you can see here, during the school year, a student will be given a care package on their birthday, on their baptismal birthday, and then on reading day, which is the last day before finals begin. And not all students have parents that will do this. Here comes Amir again. But I mean, his parents are in Iran. So do you have a question? Okay. Yes. Yes. This is International Student Ministry. That was actually, I had been there for a grand total of a day when we had a representative from ISM come in and speak about International Student Ministry. In fact, Sue Hasselbring, do you recognize her name? Maybe not. Anyway, she's the one that gave me the pointer that I'm using. So there's the Mission Society, which is what I was talking about. That's a congregational thing, or the Jubilee Club. I don't have any material for that. This may be sort of replacing that. To bring a meal, to sponsor a hymnal. That's something that would take a little bit more to explain. But if you have a Sunday school class and they would like to help out, that would be good. Then here, November 5th, homecoming weekend, we are going to be celebrating our 60th and our 65th anniversary. Again, 65 years on campus, 60 years of that building, and President Maxwell is going to be our guest speaker and preacher for that, November 5th. So if you can, please come up, celebrate it with us. This is one of the ways you can support us. And I want to just thank you for your support. As you can see where it goes. And now, got the questions, which we have 2 minutes.
Yeah, Pastor, I know you said the faculty is doing their best, and they are, to pull the students away from traditional Christian values and teaching, but you didn't mention the administration, and they're really in there trying to.
I'm afraid so.
Trying to get them away too. So
Yes.
It's a double-edged sword there. And as a matter of fact, the faculty is going along. I think a lot of the members are going along with it because they fear the administration and they fear for their jobs.
Oh, yeah, you are absolutely right. Absolutely. And the thing about it is, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood. This is a spiritual battle. It really is. And you've got all the agents and the administration. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I did want to tell you something that just happened this week. It was just amazing. And this is part of the manna story. We've got a parking lot, and as you can imagine, that parking lot is very popular. And I came in early. Most of the time, we have permitted parkers, and they come in around 8 o'clock. But I came in a little early, and I saw all these cars in our lot. And I was going, what's this? Are they going to be gone by the time our permitted parkers come in? And I caught some of the students, and they were ROTC. And I said, they go, oh, we're out of here by 20 after 7. I go, okay, that's fine then. In fact, I'll speak for the chapel, and I'll say, we appreciate the future service that you're going to do for our country. Therefore, accept our thanks for what you're doing by parking here. No problem at all. But I'd like to work this out with your superior. So we got in contact, and the superior wanted to meet me. This is Colonel. And I sat down with him on Wednesday this week, and he says, would you consider being our chaplain? Oh. Wow. I would see students in uniform and go, how can we reach out to them? And then it's like, there's that manna. Let me just pick it up. It's wonderful. Any other questions?
Any other?
Thank you. Even though I'm just easy pickings.
Any other questions? Well, remember those dates.
November
Bring a
5th.
meal. Go over November 7th.
Please, yes. And bring these to your pastor and ask him to make sure that your congregation gets these. And it has been thrilling for me to be here to speak. And again, like I said, talk to your pastor or whoever it is so that I can come and speak in your congregation. It might be the same presentation. You might be bored, but this will be the first time that the rest will see it. And so, thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Pastor Jarvis. Thank you so much.
Yeah.